Hi, Michelle here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are diving into a topic that can be a bit controversial in the Hoya world. We were always told the same thing, right? Hoyas need bright, indirect light. So we buy the high-end grow lights, we build our cabinets, and we try to give them as much light as humanly possible. We want those blooms and that gorgeous sun stressing. But if I'll be honest, as my collection has grown, I've realized that some of my plants were actually struggling because I was giving them too much of a good thing. I noticed this especially with my Hoya polyneura and a few others that were just looking a little off. They weren't dying, but they weren't thriving either. So in today's video, I'm going to share 5 Hoyas from my collection that actually prefer a lower light area. These are spots further away from the lights or tucked into corners. We're going to talk about the science of bleaching versus sun stressing, and I'm going to show you my specific light gradient strategy for organizing a cabinet. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider supporting me by liking the video or even by subscribing to the channel. And please join in the conversation in the comments. I do read and respond to all of my comments, so if you have anything you'd like to add, please put it down below. Now, let's get into the video. Before we look at plants, we have to understand why this happens. First, we have anthocyanins. This is the good stress. When you see a Hoya sipitingensis or a caudata turn that deep, beautiful purple, that's the plant producing a pigment as its natural sunscreen. It's healthy, the leaf stays thick, and it's what many of us are looking for. But then there's the chlorophyll bleaching. This is the bad stress. This is the burn. This happens when light is so intense it literally destroys the chlorophyll inside the leaf. The leaf turns a sickly pale yellow. It often feels thinner and the plant stops growing. If you see this, your plant is screaming for shade, and I'm going to show you one in this video. Now, I recently had a comment from one of you about their polyneura yellowing, despite perfect roots and perfect watering. 9 times out of 10, bleaching is the culprit for the polyneura. So now let's go ahead and talk in specifics about each Hoya. First up is the Hoya linearis. This plant is a fan favorite, but she can also be a total diva. In my recent video, we talked about mountainous species. Linearis comes from the high elevations in the Himalayas. Now think about that environment. It's cool, it's misty, and the light is often filtered through clouds or a canopy. Linearis has very thin needle-like foliage. Because the leaves are so thin, they have almost zero protection against heat. When we put linearis directly under a powerful grow light, 2 things happen. First, the light intensity bleaches the green right out of the needles. They start looking a pale green to a yellow and dehydrated rather than lush. Second, the heat from those lights dries out the stems. I've personally struggled greatly with taking successful cuttings of this linearis in the past. And I realized that it was because I was keeping the mother plant too warm. Now I keep my linearis in a lower light section of one of my cabinets. Now she is still living in a cabinet, but the cabinet doesn't get direct sun and only uses a small 12-inch LED light on every shelf. It's also located in the coolest part of my cabinet. If you've ever noticed your linearis is looking a bit bald at the top, it's likely too close to the light. Next up is the rotundiflora. I absolutely love those quirky rectangular shape fuzzy leaves. But rotundiflora is a classic example of a forest floor Hoya. My rotundiflora is actually in 2 pots right now. I took cuttings when the plant was severely dehydrated and had some root rot. I put the cuttings in a 6-inch self-watering pot and they are growing fantastically. But I kept the original root ball as well, and that is still healthy, believe it or not. Not only did I keep the original root ball, but I also kept the stem as far as it was growing that was still healthy. So I cut off all of the outer part of the rotundiflora, left the one stem that was still doing well, and grew that. Now both survived and they now flourish. In fact, the original portion that is in my Mills bow just rebloomed for the first time since its chop. The other part of my rotundiflora is now in an ambient room conditions on a shelf in a low light area. I supplement the light by using 4-foot long grow lights. These lights, however, have a plastic cover that diffuses the LED light. This makes it perfect for lower light plants. Now those tiny hairs on that rotundiflora leaves are called trichomes. They are designed to catch moisture and light in a shaded environment. But when you blast them with high-end LEDs, you're basically overdriving the plant's engine. I found that rotundiflora is one of the few Hoyas that will actually bloom for me in what I'd call medium light. She doesn't need to be stressed to be happy. In fact, she's much happier being tucked underneath a larger plant. If you want those leaves to stay a bright green, move the Hoya to lower light. Trust me. The third plant is a plant that almost everyone struggles with at some point, the polyneura. In my collection, I've had to reroot long stems of the polyneura after root rot multiple times. In fact, I'm currently rerooting it right now. The polyneura has really taught me a lesson about a Hoya's environmental needs. These are cool growing Hoyas from higher elevations. Now, if you have your polyneura too close to a grow light or a sunny window, the heat and light intensity will cause that beautiful fishtail Hoya to fade its green. It starts looking a sickly light lime color. Now in my living room, I moved my polyneura to a window that is well lit but receives no intense light or direct sun. It's tucked away from the majority of the bright light, and the new growth is finally coming in that deep, lush forest green. If your polyneura is yellowing and you've checked the roots and they are good, try moving it away from the light. It's a cool climate Hoya that just wants to chill out. Number 4 on my list is Hoya multiflora, sometimes known as the shooting star Hoya, based upon how its blooms look. I love this plant because in my house, it is always in bloom. I do have to do something about its height though, because it's getting so tall that the state can no longer support it. But because it's such a prolific bloomer, it has a very high metabolism. It also has very thin, paper-like leaves compared to a carnosa. Because the leaves are so thin, they have almost no protection against intense UV light. If I put my multiflora in the hot zone of my cabinet, the leaves will start to scorch and I'll get these dry, crispy edges. But even worse, it will actually drop its peduncles before they even bloom. I've dropped several since owning the plant due to light and watering issues. It's as if the plant gets stressed out and just abandons its blooms. I've found that this plant is much happier at the very edge of a plant shelf, actually underneath the same window that the polyneura is in. It gets that soft, diffused light all day. It keeps the leaves green and keeps those stars blooming constantly. And finally, number 5, and this one might surprise you. It's my Hoya Krinkle 8. Now this is a perfect example of why you have to watch your individual plants. On one of my Vitzjo shelves, I have several Hoyas, and most of them are looking absolutely perfect under the light. But my Krinkle 8 is sitting there right next to them, and she is looking incredibly sun-bleached. Those leaves are turning a pale, sickly light green. It doesn't seem to suffer as much because it's got several peduncles that are always budding up to bloom. This, however, might be a case of the death blooms. The Hoya is so stressed that it's putting all of its energy into growing blooms to spread the plant around. It's so interesting because the plants right next to it are totally fine, but the Krinkle 8 has those deep dimples in the leaves, and I think that maybe those indentations might actually be catching and trapping light, creating little hot spots on the leaf surface. Although it's a carnosa relative, this specific plant is telling me the light is too much. So she's getting moved to another location where the extra distance from the light will let her recover and reclaim that deep green color. Just because a plant should handle high light doesn't mean your specific plant wants it. Now, you might be looking at my IKEA cabinets and thinking, Michelle, do you have grow lights on every single shelf? How is there a shade section? And you're right. In a cabinet setup, there actually really isn't a low light zone, but there is a light gradient. I organized my Hoyas based on the light's intensity and distance from the Hoya. First, let's talk about the top shelf in my Mills bow. In this cabinet, that top shelf is actually much further away from the lights than on any other shelf in the cabinet. That extra vertical space is a Goldilocks zone. The light has more room to spread out and dissipate before it ever touches a leaf. This is where I put my taller shade lovers that need a little bit of breathing room. Next, I look at light output. Not all of my grow lights are created equal. In my detail cabinets, where I put my sensitive Hoyas, I intentionally use smaller 12-inch lights. These have a lower output than the 2-foot ones, and they create little pockets of softer light along the edges of the shelf. But my favorite shade hack are the diffusers on my 4-foot-long grow lights on my wall shelves. It works just like a sheer curtain on a window. It takes that harsh, direct, stinging light and it breaks it up into a soft ambient glow. My Hoya get the duration of the light they need to grow without the intensity that causes them to bleach. I still use natural shading. I'll place a massive Hoya pot directly under a light source so its large leaves cast a literal shadow over the sensitive Hoya next to it. It's all about creating those little microclimates right around each Hoya. Now, if you have a Hoya that is yellowing and you've checked the roots and checked it for pests, try moving it to another location. Give it 2 weeks in this area and see how quickly it recovers. We sometimes get so caught up in getting Hoya to grow fast that we forget these are living things from very different locations and growing conditions. Let me know in the comments section, what's a plant you moved to a lower light corner that suddenly took off? I'd love to hear your stories. Thank you for staying and watching until the end. I know that you have a lot of things occupying your free time, so I really appreciate that you chose to spend some of that time with me today. I'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Thanks. Bye.
On the sill by the sink, 3 pots in a row, Basil by the blue cup, pothos trailing low. You lean in to check them like they know your name.